Kentucky looking for their first marquee win of the season against Gonzaga on Friday. This is a bounce back spot for both teams. Dion, is it too early to call this a must win for either of these teams?
Not for Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga is okay. They had a rough loss to Michigan, but I think overall, I just think really highly of Michigan at the moment. Kentucky, if they lose this game, I think you got to ring some alarms.
Looking at Gonzaga's schedule, I mean, look, they'd be 7-2. I don't think anyone would freak out. They have that win over Alabama that's going to age really well. Creighton and Oklahoma wins are not exactly aging great as time goes on. So, they got UCLA and then they have the WCC. That's what they got after Kentucky. This is kind of their last big brand opportunity to get a win. If you're Kentucky, this is absolutely a must win, I think. With all due respect to Indiana and St. John's, who are still to come on the schedule, I think you fall to 5-4 and lose two straight to North Carolina and Gonzaga this week. I think not only is your fan base questioning you anymore, I think your fan base is out on you. For Mark Pope, this is if I want to instill any sense of belief for my fan base, we need to win this game. For what it's worth, this will be in Nashville, Bridgestone Arena, where I believe the Predators play. So strange spot for a neutral game between Kentucky and Gonzaga, but you would think there's a lot of Kentucky fans here, I think.
Kentucky fans everywhere, right? That's what I've been told. Big Blue Nation, I believe
Right.
is the thing.
I mean, I would assume if this is like a neutral, this is what, 80-90% Kentucky fan against Gonzaga?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume Kentucky chose the neutral location. Gonzaga was just like it can't be in the state of Kentucky, so Kentucky was like, I guess we'll go to Nashville then.
Yeah, in the state of Tennessee, I think advantage Kentucky in terms of home game feel to it. Okay, let's talk some X's and O's here. Ken Palm, first of all, getting way ahead of ourselves, projects this to be a very close game. It's basically a toss-up. I haven't seen a sportsbook line for this. This game's on Friday. We're recording this the day before, so this may be a game that is pick 'em. This may be a game that is Kentucky or Gonzaga -2 or 3. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I expect this should be a close game if both teams play to their capabilities. I want to ask you this. I don't know if I've talked to you much on Kentucky this entire month as things have sort of spiraled out of control for Mark Pope. What is your current pulse check on what this Kentucky team is?
Um, I said this with Cart yesterday. I feel like everybody's judging them based off the $22 million number, and I don't think 11 million of the $22 million are currently playing. And that is where I'm at with the roster. I'm farther off this team because of the way Mark Pope is behaving. Like the roster, I think, is what it is. I think it's a $22 million roster where your best player hasn't played yet. I think Jelon Lowe is probably closer to their second best player than we once thought. And the two of them have been, or Lowe's been in and out of the lineup. JQ just hasn't played. It's been a lot of pressure on Ortega. Um, I think Ortega heliocentric offense has a ceiling, and I think we're seeing the ceiling, and that's just the unfortunate reality of how the beginning part of the season's gone for them. But the way Mark Pope's handling it, Mark Pope is handling it as if he's a mid-major coach with Kentucky expectations. And for that reason, I'm a little farther out on this team just because like I would prefer if Mark Pope came in. Honestly, and this is probably something no Kentucky fan wants to. I'd rather Mark Pope just handle it like Calipari did. A, we didn't scrimmage that much this offseason. A, we had a lot of injuries. We didn't really get to practice together. Give us time. It's going to take us time to get into the flow of things because I think that's the truth. Instead, every loss, it feels like the sky's falling for Mark Pope. And on top of that, I think my biggest issue is the saving grace is, well, we might get Tyron in January. That's not the saving grace I would want. I feel like what they currently have isn't working, and the plan for the future doesn't feel any better.
Yeah, we have to wait and see who's available for this game. Diabate and Lowe and Quaintance all out against North Carolina earlier this week. I think it'd be fair to say it would be a surprise if any of those magically return. Maybe Diabate because it feels like he was more day to day, but Lowe and Quaintance I've heard nothing on at this point, and there was hope Quaintance would return in the first month. That's passed. If he hasn't returned, with this sense of urgency with where this Kentucky team is at, like, I think it would be one thing like let's rush him or let's bring him along slowly if we're undefeated. Like your fan base is going crazy here. If Quaintance could play, I would think you're doing everything you could get him back to play. So that's some personal introspection on that. But I'm not expecting this Kentucky personnel to look any different than it did against Carolina, minus maybe Diabate's back. On the flip side, Gonzaga has had a week and 2 days to stew over that Players Era championship loss to Michigan. They got pantsed. They lost by 40 points to the team that the analytics now tell us is the best team in the country. Michigan also did that to Auburn and San Diego State. I mean, I like you said, this might have just been more Michigan was on another planet that week. But before the Michigan game, Gonzaga looked pretty untouchable themselves. Beat Alabama by 10, beat Maryland by 39. They were rolling. This is a very good team. What do you expect this team to be given that they've had really 10 days off to just sit on a 40-point loss coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, first, like with the Michigan game, if I'm Gonzaga, I'd rather get steamrolled by 40 in Vegas than lose a close one. I think you could just say like, hey, hats off to Michigan, we're on to the next. If you lost a close one, I think you kind of like continue to think, well, we just lost $1 million by like a possession or two, and that might seep into this game. I think they just were able to quickly turn the page to Kentucky, which I think is the worst case scenario for Kentucky, by the way, because Kentucky just had North Carolina on Tuesday. And they had to lock in on that, and they lost. I think Gonzaga, it's hard to say this after the Michigan game, but I still feel this way. I think that's the most annoying team in the country to play against. The length they have on defense, the way they can pressure the basketball. If you do not have a true point guard, that team is so hard to beat. And I'm not even sure Jalon Lowe's the truest of point guards that could handle the pressure that a Gonzaga team's going to beat. But if they don't have Jalon Lowe, like I think this is the worst case scenario for a Kentucky team to play without their point guard. Um, Otega and Aberdeen are not going to be able to handle the rock against the size and the pressure that this Gonzaga team brings. We haven't seen Gonzaga hit shots yet. If this is the game where like Gonzaga's hitting all the threes that we're expecting them to make, I think this one could get pretty ugly.
Yeah, I feel like these two teams are pretty similar on paper, minus a couple key distinctions and minus the spot. I'm a big spot better and a person that believes like, the timing of a game, where it's being played can have a huge impact on the result. To me, a Gonzaga team that is really old, really experienced, really vetty, really tough. Give them 10 days to stew on something as bad as that Michigan loss. I expect them to just come out firing. And then you have a Kentucky team that to me is spiraling, that I don't think is very old, that I don't think is very tough. They're vulnerable. That would be the word for me right now. I think North Carolina capitalized on that vulnerability, and I think a team as vetty and tough as Gonzaga has a good opportunity to do the same. But outside of that, sort of, how are they wired? How old are they? And the spot, I actually think these two teams are pretty similar. And it could just come down to execution because both teams have questions with shooting ability. Both teams are shooting 32 and 33% from three on the year, and neither team shoots a lot of threes. Like Mark Pope's outside the top 150 in 3-point volume for what seems like the first time ever. Gonzaga usually always has shooters everywhere. They're 308th in 3-point volume right now. Like both these teams really get all their work done at the rim. I think both these teams want to rely on being good rebounding teams and kind of good defensive teams first and foremost. I just I don't know. It's weird. Oddly enough, if there was one offense I think would pop off for a big performance, it might be Kentucky's in my mind. But I also just trust Gonzaga's athletes and vets physically a lot more than I trust Kentucky's.
I think my issue with Kentucky having like that offensive like super performance because I feel like they're due for like the crazy big like we made 10 or 12 threes game. But if all you have is Otega, like can't Gonzaga just lock in on Otega, take him out the game, and then put the ball in Aberdeen's hands, and that feels like a win.
Yeah. Well, Gonzaga's very huge too. I mean, they go 6'3", 6'4" in the backcourt, Adam Miller, Mario St. Superi, but Grant Foster 6'7", Innocenti 6'5", 200, Jalen Worley 6'7", 200. They bring him off the bench. They have a lot of bodies they can throw at Otega. And then when you talk about like go to Aberdeen next, all their guards are like 6'3" and up. So I think you're right. I think schematically Gonzaga is going to feel pretty good about their matchups in this game. Going back to that Michigan game, we kind of said Gonzaga's a post-oriented team. They want to play through EK and Huff, and that's kind of what makes them go. If you have the pieces to just hold up against those two in the front court, though, it can get ugly. Because I don't think Gonzaga knows what they want to do offensively if it's not EK and Huff kind of just driving every possession. I look to Kentucky. This feels like a big spot for Malachi Moreno.
Yeah.
If Quaintance isn't available, Moreno's going to have to hold up and use his size and shot blocking prowess, which he's impressed me thus far. But big spot too. You've got to have two guys. Like Michigan was successful because they had Merez at the four for half of this game and Yaxel. Like who is at the four for Kentucky right now? Is it Yelovich after the Carolina game?
Yeah, I was gonna say Big Jelly and Cam Williams are kind of splitting those minutes at the moment, right?
That ain't going to work for Cam.
No. I did listen, I'm Cam Williams Hive, president of it. That's my guy. At the highest peaks, I thought he was a lotto pick. Brother got to hit some shots. Like I'm begging you, Cam. Like we got to have that one moment where it's just like 5 of 5 from three, 7'2" wingspan or whatever. We're disrupting. Tyon Grant Foster can't kill us, Cam Williams. We need this. Like we need this moment. Um, but I think Big Jelly has to be it because he has the size and the shooting.
I mean that the reason for optimism would be you're coming off, I think, the best Yelovich performance we've seen.
Yeah.
Like he was legitimately productive, 6 points, 4 rebounds. He had 10 rebounds against Tennessee Tech the game before this. Mark Pope gave him more leash. He played 24 minutes against Carolina. He looked the part. So I think, yeah, if you're trying to talk yourself into how does Kentucky do this, I think to me it's a lot of Yelovich. It's a great Malachi Moreno game, and then you need Owe to pace you offensively. And that's easier said than done against Grant Foster. Can we just go from the top of the list down? Who's the best player in this game? Like, how would you hierarchy the top three or four?
I think Graham Mika is the best player in the game
Take
to
him
me at
over
least.
Otega even at their best?
I'm not as high on Ortega as the rest. I would much, 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 much prefer Ortega. Like championship Kentucky team, Ortega's your third option.
Yeah, I hear that. I don't think Kentucky fans would disagree with that. Owe and EK both. I just realized how funny that is. Owe and EK is fun to say. Both preseason All American types, so I won't be surprised. I think it's a lot more likely that EK has a big game here against a freshman than Owe does against a 25-year-old. Like that's the thing. This Gonzaga team is like on average 24 years old.
No, I told Connor this because we did like the early Gonzaga previews. Gonzaga is just a G League team that like wears the Gonzaga uniform. But like a year from now, they're all going to be on the Windy City Bulls, like the Stockton Kings. Like this team is basically just going to be transformed to a G League team a year from now. Then Mario St. Superi will still be around.
Yeah, they're fourth in experience in the country. Good continuity, very big, very old. So, yeah, tough matchup. Do you think it's fair if Kentucky loses this game? Is it fair for Kentucky fans to say I'm officially fully out on Pope? They would be 5-4 through 9 games with losses to Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, and Gonzaga.
I don't think it's fair to be fully out on Pope if you're a Kentucky fan, not because of the results, because to be honest, Kentucky fans like this is a little bit of the experience you're looking for. To be honest with you, like the anti-Cal experience comes with ups and downs, and I know like the downs with Cal were much higher than the downs with Pope will be, but I think this is what we signed up for when we brought Mark Pope on as a coach. I don't think it's going to take away from what the future looks like for Pope, because the big selling point that Kentucky fans had for this roster is, hey, by the way, we return 8 or 9 guys next year. And when you're going to return 8 or 9 guys and you're not going to have many NBA guys and you don't have many seniors, I think it comes with trials and tribulations, and we're currently in the tribulations portion of the season. I think we have to wait through it, be patient, let this team get healthy, get back the guy that should have been a top five pick this past draft, right? Like, how many people have a top five NBA draft pick that just isn't playing basketball at the moment? Only you guys in Kansas.
Yeah.
And the Kansas one is a little different of a situation. So I think be patient, let the roster get healthy. This is what you signed up for. And I know like no Kentucky fan necessarily wants to hear that, but like this is what comes with Mark Pope.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a harsh pitch, but maybe a real one. Okay. Lastly, if Kentucky wins this game, what's the biggest thing that happened? What's the biggest driving reason why?
Jalon Lowe played. I think that's the only shot they have. If Lowe doesn't play, I don't think they stand a chance in this game. But I think if Lowe plays, if Lowe can get you 20, I think they've gotten more production out of Aberdeen than I would have expected. Like I've been a little harsh on Aberdeen in this video just because I don't think Aberdeen the player is like the quality of player you would spend the money that they spent on him for. But he's been good. I think you need a big Otega Oweh performance. I think you need a big Low performance, and Big Jelly has to hit threes. And he honestly probably had to be damn near perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking something up real quick. Do, 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 do. Okay. Mark Few has lost back-to-back games just two times since 2015.
Can I ask a question?
That's crazy.
How do you find that so quickly? I wouldn't even know where to begin.
I'm on Ken Palm. Actually, no,
Oh,
he did it. He did it last year twice, excuse me. So it'd be three times. Non-conference back-to-back losses. Mark Pope has only done twice since 2015.
a hand up moment here, and this is probably a bad take. I have a lot of these. I'm out on non-con stats.
We don't care.
Yeah, Cart and I were talking Purdue records, and he's like, Purdue keeps losing like December road games. They play like one a year. So
Hashtag play somebody, man. It's tough. It's tough. No, I think if Kentucky wins this game, it's because their backcourt finds answers. I don't think Lowe's going to play, so it would have to be Aberdeen or a great Oway game, or God forbid, Jasper Johnson plays more than 6 minutes and does anything. That seems unlikely. I know we're painting a gloomy picture here, but I have a lot of respect for this Gonzaga team, and I know it looked ugly against Michigan, but um, they're really good and really old and really ready. If Kentucky finds a way to do this, it will be one of the most impressive wins a team has had all season. With their back against the wall against a team this old and this good, I'll be very, very impressed. Let's get to predictions. Ken Palm has Gonzaga by just one, 78-77. What are you going with?
I love Gonzaga. If that spread says one, by the way, there is a world I place one of the largest wagers I've placed in a long time on Gonzaga. I don't think Kentucky can keep up with this team. Gee, can I say the harsh truth on Mark Pope?
Yep.
That like the harsh truth on Mark Pope. Kentucky fans, you guys wanted Calipari. You just wanted Mark Pope to speak instead of Calipari. Like if Calipari sent an assistant up to the press conferences but did all the work, that's who you want as the coach. And I don't think you truly want like. By the way, and this isn't even like being disrespectful to Pope because I've said it a million times. I would take Mark Pope like first if we're choosing coaches for the next 10 years, and I still believe that. I just don't think Kentucky's the program for him. I really don't. And you kind of mentioned it earlier in the season. And the more I watch his press conferences, I don't think this dude wants this full experience. I think it's really tough on him mentally. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. If you put him at Iowa State, I think Iowa State's like one of the two to three best teams in the country, which they already might be. But that program feels a little bit more up to his speed. I think Kentucky fans need a coach that's a little bit more Cal-like too.
Can I make a proposal?
What's that?
Mark Pope for Kevin Young.
KY would thrive at Kentucky, man. KY,
KY is the perfect Kentucky coach.
yeah. No, because you know who Kentucky really needs right now? AJ DePonta.
Right.
Like you spend $22 million, you don't have AJ. That's crazy to me. That's crazy.
What BYU has become post Mark Pope is essentially what Kentucky should be.
Yeah.
And Mark Pope should just keep doing the Mark Pope stuff at BYU. It's perfect.
And you wanted the coach that spent the money on the superstars. You just wanted the coach to like your program. Cal didn't like the program. So he shouldn't be the Kentucky coach. I agree. He doesn't care about Big Blue Nation the way Pope does. I get that. But Pope doesn't spend the money the way Cal does. And
Right.
that's also part of the problem. You need somebody that does both. I think KY is the perfect embodiment of somebody that does both.
I don't want KY to leave BYU, but I'm gonna workshop this. Maybe we could like work in a trade that works both ways, you know?
If the crumble cookie owner is listening to this, let's be unequivocal. Like KY can stay a big dog. Like we don't.
All right, I'm going Gonzaga by 11. I think Kentucky's going to put up a valiant effort, possibly lead at halftime, and then it's just going to snowball, and Gonzaga's vets will take over. So the sky is falling. I need to see something before I think that changes. We'll be here to recap it after the game.